As we mentioned, Rumfox leverages all of the functionality of Excel. A powerful aspect of Excel is VLOOKUP. To better understand, let's set up two tables to handle currency conversion. One to find the country currency, and then the other to then find the rate associated with that currency. So we've put together 3 steps. Step 1 shows you how you can write a VLOOKUP off of the country table to find the proper currency. So I'm using Mexico, using the VLOOKUP against the table to derive the currency, which is MXN. Once we've established that, we are now going to leverage that for step 2. So, using from step 1 in step 2, we are going to grab the MXN currency rate against the other lookup table, the currency rate lookup table, and utilize the match function to triangulate off of June for MXN to find the appropriate value within the matrix. So as you can see here, the value highlighted in yellow is the correct value. So pulling it all together in step 3, we're going to take the VLOOKUP that we wrote in step 1 and insert it where we had the cell reference. So in essence, we put a VLOOKUP inside a VLOOKUP that leverages the match function, and therefore we get our solution all in one call. That's the power of Excel. So let's test our results. Change Mexico to Canada, and we'll see our currency change. Let's change the month to August. We see the rate change. Let's change it to August in our final example, and we get the same rate. Now let's build a sample Rumfox pivot table to kind of showcase how we can leverage this currency conversion. First, we're going to need a country dimension. So we're going to sell, for example, products in these different countries. We want to set up our time dimension. So let's grab January through February. So when we do our match function, it interrelates there. Let's create a total year. Let's set up a rate dimension that takes the local currency, right, the local dollars. Then we're going to have a currency rate. And in our situation, we are in the US, so we are going to change or convert the rate to US dollars. So it would be the US dollars times the currency rate to get to the converted US dollars. Here's $100. The currency rate for the Canadian dollar is this for August. Boom. That's how the calculation would occur. September, we see a change. Finally, we would have our accounts. We'd have sales, maybe cost of goods sold. Just going to find the margin here. We could have had a full-blown income statement, but again, this is just a sample database. We take sales minus cost of goods sold to create the margin, and now we have our country dimension, our time dimension, our rate dimension, and our accounts dimension. So let's create the Rumfox pivot table. We'll go over to the projects, create a new project. We'll call this currency and set this up, and now start bringing in these dimensions. Let's bring in the country dimension. We'll use the indent to find the hierarchy. There's our total company. We'll call that country. We'll make this an indent as well. That's the type of dimension build this is, and we'll call that time. Go to our rate build that, leveraging as is, so it builds out the formulas the way we want, but it's a flat dimension. Set that up as rate. And finally, let's go over to accounts. Let's use the hierarchy formula to build out our accounts. And now we'll see margin and be able to drill in to its components. Let's call this accounts and set that up as such. Let's jump back to our pivot table. And now we can see our 4 dimensions. Finally, for the Rumfox pivot table to leverage these lookup tables, we need to add them to the Rumfox library. So we're going to pick up the country currency and the currency rate. So now they're in our library, and we're going to attach them to the pivot table. So here at the bottom, add that to the pivot table and add that to the pivot table. So now they are connected to our pivot table, and we're going to build the structure. Pivot table built. Now that our model's built, let's go over to the rules, get a sense of what was built dynamically just from our structures. But what we want to do is we want to add a new rule in the model that leverages our lookup functionality in Excel. So we're going to create a new rule. We're going to go to our rate, right, and pick up currency rate. We have copied out that lookup rule, right? We're going to paste it in here as a formula, and anywhere there was a cell reference that this rule was using, we're going to dynamically drive it around our model by leveraging our dimensions. And this way, Rumfox will iterate through all the countries, through all the time, to get the appropriate relationships. We'll validate the rule and save it. Now we have that. Let's set the order to a sequence that we want. As we create our rules, take a moment to realize there's only 5 rules in the Rumfox pivot table that are driving the entire application. Imagine all the rules, hundreds of rules you'd have to build to get this to build in Excel. The final step is we need data. Now normally we'd be importing data from our back-end systems, but we just want to test this out and show how this would work. So we're going to use the random data generator capability within the product to be able to set it up for sales and cost of goods sold. We'll set it up so we can always have a random positive margin. So we'll make sales a random number between 100 and 125. We'll set cost of goods sold up to randomly move between 60 and 85. Once we set that up, we'll push this into our random data set, set that up, and now have that run across our entire model. And boom, replace the values and set up the load. So let's jump over to building a view now to see our results. So here's a default view showing local dollars in January. Let's change the view for us, moving accounts. Let's move countries to go in our rows, with time going across, rate going down, and there you go. Maybe we'll take out of our rates the currency rate, so just eliminate that, so then we can just see local dollars versus US dollars. So they are locally, and there they are converted.